A rock star arrival for one of Britain's more colourful company bosses.
All right, Charlie?
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Entrepreneur and political donor Charlie Mullins entered the Supreme Court to continue a legal battle with consequences for workers' rights. On the other side of the case is Gary Smith. Mr. Smith worked for Charlie Mullins' company Pimlico Plumbing for 6 years as a subcontractor. He had already won the right to be classed as a worker, despite being registered as self-employed. Today, the company challenged that principle in the Supreme Court. Pimlico Plumbers generates millions and millions of pounds providing plumbers 24/7. But although those plumbers arrive wearing a Pimlico Plumbers t-shirt and driving a Pimlico Plumbers van, the companies say those plumbers should be self-employed. The highest court in the land disagrees.
Its terms enable the company to exercise tight administrative control over him during his periods of work for it, to impose fierce conditions on when and how much it paid to him, which were described at one point as his wages, and to restrict his ability to compete with it for plumbing work following any termination of their relationship.
Unsurprisingly, Mr. Mullins did not like the outcome of his appeal.
Unfortunately, the judges missed a great opportunity to rectify our out-of-date employment law today and bring it into the 21st century. Unfortunately, I think they bottled it, took a cowardly decision and decided that he was a worker.
This is now the 4th straight case in which the courts have ruled in Mr. Smith's favour.
We're absolutely delighted.
I'm feeling very bit overwhelming, but very pleased with the outcome, obviously, after the 7 years.
Of litigating. Yeah. Yes, it's been a long time.
What are you doing yourself these days, Gary?
Plumbing. Self-employed. Properly self-employed, though.
This is another win for workers in the so-called gig economy that has seen a shift to companies contracting freelancers and independent workers to reduce the cost of staffing obligations like holiday pay. The courts have already seen cases from firms like Deliveroo, but is this one different? This isn't the case of like a low-paid, exploited kind of worker. This is the case of kind of a skilled worker who's earning kind of good money, having a dispute with a company.
It doesn't matter. We're not looking at exploitation in terms of salary. The law is to protect your workers' rights. If they're not genuinely self-employed, they are entitled to employment rights, irrespective of how much money that they earn.
Last year, this man led a review into this changing nature of work on behalf of the government.
The critical issue for whether you're a worker or self-employed is control and supervision. If I give you orders and consistently give you orders and tell you what to do, that looks like you're an employee of mine and not self-employed. Secondly, today's judgment underlines the need to try to classify employment status better in legislation, and the government's consulting on that, and I hope they take it forward.
Companies like this are already adjusting, but if the flow of work continues away from staff jobs, is the rise in self-employment masking a decline in workers' access to their rights?
Well, Pimlico Plumbers boss Charlie Mullins is with me, and the economist Faiza Shaheen from the Centre for Labour and Social Studies. Charlie Mullins, how much is it going to cost you to put all your plumbers on PAYE and give them holiday pay and sick pay and all the rights that they are now entitled to?
Yeah, that's not the case, because we've actually changed their contract 7 years ago. This is 7 years old, and so we don't have to change their contracts now. Gary found a couple of loopholes in the contract. He clearly knew he was self-employed. And unfortunately, there was a couple of loopholes.
So you're saying it's not going to cost you anything?
Well, I mean, I think 6 years of holiday pay.
No. I mean, for all your plumbers. If all your plumbers now
that's what I just said. We've changed the contract.
So they are all employed?
Yeah. Well, no, we've got some that are employed, some are self-employed. You know, they're not saying you can't do this. What they're saying is you can't contract him to 40 hours a week, and you can't stop him from bringing other engineers into work for him. That's what they're saying. But we haven't actually lost anything at the moment.
Well, you have. You've lost every stage, haven't you?
No, we haven't, because we're going to the tribunal to still fight. At the moment, all he has got is workers' rights. So, you know, we're not actually done anything wrong.
Why do you want to deprive him of his workers' rights?
No, you're taking it wrong. The man was earning £500,000 for 3 years, and his money was built in with being self-employed, which means he should be looking...
When you say £500,000...
Exactly.
Out of that, he's got to pay you for the van and the fees,
yeah.
So he wasn't earning £500,000,
no,
was he?
his wages.
That was his take. That was his turnover.
What I'm saying, what he spends it on.
So it's very misleading of you to say that.
Not at all.
I mean,
not at all. I'm saying
because you've been saying this all day. Oh, he was earning £500,000 quid.
And he was.
He wasn't really. He wasn't taking home
doing
£500,000 quid, was he?
What was he earning?
What was he taking home?
Well, I don't know. He was claiming all his self-employed taxes and claiming for a wife as an office, claiming for everything he could as being a self-employed person. He used to buy his own materials, his own uniform and pay for the van. But the point I'm saying is Pimlico Plumbers paid him £500,000 for 3 years, which means that we built in all his sick pay and holiday pay in it. If he wanted to be PAYE or a worker, we'd have given him a different package and it would have been nowhere near like that money.
Faiza Shaheen, Charlie Mullins is saying that this is about 21st century working, and people want flexibility. Do they?
So I actually think this is about 19th century working. I think that in many ways we're going back to a time when you were told on the day of work that you will have a job today, you will get money today. And today that looks like getting the text message in the morning. So we need these kinds of legal rulings to actually stop us from to continue down this road whereby we are seeing greater exploitation of workers. And just in this decade, we've seen the number of people on zero-hour contracts increase fivefold. We've seen the number, so half of all employment growth has been self-employment. And we know that that's not good, well-paid self-employment.
And yet a lot of people don't support this case, do they, who are working in the gig economy, and they say that they do want the flexibility of being self-employed and to know when they can work and who they can work for.
I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of people, especially in sectors like social care, where they know how many hours they should be doing per week. A lot of people are on zero-hour contracts and they aren't working 0 hours, so why would it hurt the employer to change their contract? And look, there's a broader issue here. When people aren't paying into their pension, so we know that people that are self-employed are much less likely to pay into pensions. Where's that money going to come from later on? And there's huge societal costs of this type of model. So we need to be saying enough is enough.
Oh, I'm going to disagree with you. If they choose to be self-employed, then it's for them to put pension away, for them to put holiday pay away. They've been paid an enormous amount of money rather than be on the PAYE. There's 4.8 million subcontractors in the country. This is going to affect businesses. It's going to close businesses down. Most people I know that are self-employed want to be. We're not talking about Uber and Deliveroo or whatever they're called. We're talking about an highly skilled worker that can work anywhere and earn brilliant money. And so I think we're just seeing the wrong side.
How much tax are we missing out on by businesses using this? Because, I mean, if you have people on your books who are self-employed in inverted commas, you don't have to pay employers' national insurance and you don't have to give them all the other benefits. So, I mean, is the Exchequer losing out as well?
Yeah, so I think once you add that all together, you are actually looking at a situation. I mean, there's a reason why you chose that model, right? There's a reason why employers decide to have this model, because they make money from it.
That is why you did it, isn't it?
Not at all. Not at all. No, not at all.
And sometimes it is the choice.
We would have
of the
made
worker,
more money if Gary went on the books. We'd have made more money. We pay their self-employed plumbers a lot more than guys that are on the books. So it's not about.
So why do you have that model?
Because it suits a lot of the workers. There's 4.8 million subcontractors out there, and it suits them because they can benefit from the tax.
But aren't the tax rules catching up with you now? I mean,
it's not catching up with me. I've done nothing wrong.
No. But all businesses who are employing people effectively as self-employed workers, they tell them what to do, they make them wear a uniform, they can't work for anyone else, and yet they are still self-employed somehow. The Inland Revenue is coming after that class of business.
You're talking about Uber and Deliveroo. You're not talking about we're an honest and fair company. For 6 years, this suited Gary to work on a self-employed basis. All of a sudden, Gary becomes ill, which is unfortunate, and now he wants workers' rights. You can't have your cake and eat it. He knows that he was paid quite clearly to be a self-employed plumber. He chose to be a self-employed.
So you're saying your self-employed plumbers make more than your employed plumbers?
Oh, of course they do.
And that's because of the tax advantages?
No, not because we pay them more. I mean,
why do you pay them more?
Well, because they're self-employed and they need.
But why do you pay them more if they're self-employed?
Well, let me just say, and that's why they have to account for holidays and sick pay. That is already built in with their bit. You know, I mean, Gary said today he doesn't feel he's been exploited, which he hasn't. He had a great job there, but unfortunately, he wants his cake and eat it.
The big thing here is that it's not just about Pimlico Plumbers. A lot of people on these contracts and who are bogus self-employed often, they're not earning high wages. And there's been cases, so Don Lane, for instance, a man that worked for DPD, it's a delivery company, he missed doctor's appointments because he didn't want to take that time off work. So it incentivises a sort of model where we are essentially teaching workers to be like robots. They can't take time off. You know that when you're self-employed, you always feel like you have to think twice about taking time off. So it's incentivizing this sort of situation.
Can I just explain something to you?
Problems.
If you're self-employed, you can take what time off you want.
Yeah, but it costs you, right?
Well,
so you're less likely to do it,
and
that has all kinds of health consequences.
Not at all. Honestly, I'm afraid you people are not in the business world. I'm telling you now, it was a bad decision.
I run a company too, actually, and I can tell you it does work to pay their taxes, let them have holidays because they're more productive.
But why, if that's the case, then they need to do away with self-employment. We was led into this case by the Inland Revenue or HMRC. They actually advised us that he's self-employed. We've done nothing wrong. It's just that he's found a couple of loopholes.
Look, I think the problem is with the self-employed, and this is what happened with Uber as well, is that actually to be self-employed, you're meant to have a lot of choice. You have a choice about your customers. You have a choice. And actually, when you look how these Uber drivers or I'm not sure about the specifics about your plumbers, but they don't have that much choice. They don't have that much choice about who's their customer, about who they get their car from. And so it's not real self-employment.
Look, I feel very sorry for the people that've got a bad deal out there and they need to get it sorted. But the government needs to get involved in this and clarify what the law is.